again, copy and pasteable to the music industry, because this thing will swallow you up and spit you out.
Sure.
So it was important, and I'm grateful for it. It made me tough, and you need that in whatever you're doing, but especially in the music industry.
So, okay, so you're tough, you're independent, I was right there. I don't know that I was tough and independent, but certainly in high school, I was prepared to be uncool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm playing piano. I'm uncool.
The music
That's
nerd.
okay.
Yeah. I was the horse girl and the music nerd. So imagine how cool I was.
Well, and we made good grades.
Yes.
Which
I
means
was the
we
nerd.
were the worst.
Yes. I was the math nerd on top of that.
Right. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I got you off track.
No, I'm still on track. Hey guys, my name is Jeff McMahon, and I play the piano for people. I've played on some big records, played on some big stages, and I've played with some big stars. Big or small, they're all the same. Taking someone with a dream, playing their song, and trying to get them further up the ladder. So that's what we'll do here. Have a conversation, maybe shine a light, and play some music. And I'll be on piano. This is McMahon on keys.
There we go.
But that's not necessarily OCD. That's just paying attention to detail.
I'm everything has a place, and it needs to be there for me to be able to function properly, to have a clear mind.
Really?
Yes, very much so. And my husband is the exact same way. So we're like, we get each other on that front.
Well, but that's where people, now, for me to even bring it up is total hypocrisy, because my office is a wreck right now. But I've always pushed back on the idea that, I'm creative, therefore I'm a slob. And it's like, no, if you want to be creative, make it easy to find your guitar pick and your tuner.
Yeah.
So you can go create something instead of spend 2 hours looking for it.
Yeah, I get told all the time, I'm like, people are like, you're very organized, creative. I'm like, I like that, because I'm not like the spacey, I don't know where anything is all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So Paige King Johnson.
The organized creative.
We've already started. And you got drug into McMahon on keys.
I love it.
Welcome to the table.
Thank you. This is a new table.
It's new to me. It's old to you. We're in your turf today.
I know. I like it.
So we were, I wasn't thinking about starting this way, but we were talking about your house hunting and all of that stuff beforehand. And we talked about that, and you're talking about how everything has its place. Yeah. I heard you say to somebody, and I thought it was funny, and then the more I start studying you, I'm like, maybe this is true. I heard you tell somebody that you were actually an 85-year-old woman.
Yeah, yes, that's indeed a fact.
And now, when I heard you say that, it was more in the context of not being a wild late night party animal and all that kind of stuff.
Old soul.
Right. Mm-hmm. But when I listen to your music, when I see what you write about, when I think about the forethought that you have on your music or on your house hunting, I'm thinking, she didn't just graduate school a few years ago. Nobody thinks that way. I've got people older than me that don't think that way. So are you really an 85-year-old woman?
100%.
How so?
If I'm not playing a show, I'm most definitely in my pajamas by 8 p.m.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. A night on my couch sounds a lot better than a night going out anywhere. I am. I'm just an old soul, though. Like, I guess because I grew up, and especially my dad, I grew up in the town that he grew up in, and so he had a lot of old family friends, and my dad always hung out with people that were older with him, so he automatically just had an older soul. And with that came, he was more mature, had more responsibility, all the things, and I guess I just saw that in him and just started mirroring, that from him. And so I guess that made me grow up a little bit quicker. Not in a bad way, but,
Right.
you know, I grew up and I was always, you know, my parents always held me and my sister both to a higher standard. And, you know, you got to act right. You got to be responsible. You got to, you know, make sure that you're taking care of the people around you. And so that's how I was raised. And that's how I am now, which I don't think is a bad thing. I love being an 85-year-old lady.
Oh, no. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. And I
highly
question,
recommend.
If you're 85, I'm wondering how old your dad is.
Yeah.
But even when, and I actually tried to track where I was picking some of this stuff up.
Yeah.
I mean, we've known of each other through mutual friends, but I hadn't like really drilled down into your stuff until we started getting ready for some of this.
What kind of dirt did you find on me?
I don't think any of it's dirt. I don't think any of it's dirt. But even when, okay, you have a story, and you can tell the story. I know you've told it a lot, but you were telling the story about your grandfather giving you the guitar at 10. Mm-hmm. So, you know, your version is going to be more honest than my version. It'll be distorted. But talk about your grandfather giving the guitar, and I got a question.
Yeah, so I was always the kid that was into music,
Right.
whatever it was. I always say I loved having attention on me. So I was the 85-year-old lady who liked attention.
Right.
And so I was always doing some kind of music, whether it was singing at church or whether it was, you know, doing plays at school or whatever.
Sure. Small town, so you did everything that was there to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I gave my mom a backseat concert every time we got in the car.
Yeah.
And so I loved music. I just loved performing in general. And when I was about 6, my sister started taking piano lessons, my older sister, and I wanted to be just like her. So I started taking piano lessons, and that was my first formal introduction to music. And my grandparents, you know, they all saw how much joy music brought me and how much I enjoyed it, and being able to bring it to other people. And so when I was 10, my granddad bought me a guitar for Christmas as a surprise. Gave it to me. I was so happy. And he was the person who encouraged me to start taking guitar lessons, and kind of go down that road and see, okay, you know, what happens if we put a guitar in this girl's hands? Where will it take her? And so he was the reason I got into music that turned into what I'm doing now. And the following Easter, he passed away. And so I kind of took that as my sign from him and God and the world, or, you know, whatever you believe in, that, you know, maybe music was something that I was meant to see through and go down that road and see what it had for me.
Okay, so a lot of questions in what you just said for me. Okay, first of all, he saw how much you loved it.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Does that mean he saw how much you performed? Does that mean you would disappear for hours in front of the piano? Does it mean both?
Yeah.
I mean, what was he seeing?
He, I think he saw the joy of more so on the performing side, because I just loved being able to make people smile, make people dance along, do whatever. And I've always been a person who just loved getting all my favorite people in a room.
Right.
And so if I went and said, hey, I have a new song to sing for you, they were automatically right there.
Well,
and
sure.
that just meant a lot to me. You know, music was a way to gather people together and bring people together in a sense where they may not have been before. And so they saw that joy that came from me. I was not the kid who was like nerding out, you know, taking all my piano practice seriously, because I'll be the first one to tell you, I hated practicing. I was not the kid who would escape for hours and hours. I would do what I had to do to be ready for whatever our next lesson was that week. And you know, as the nerding out and the music stuff came along, the practice came. But at the beginning, it was more so like, I just want to show y'all what I can do.
Right. Well, and then, so somebody in your family knew something musically.
Yes.
I mean, for you to be doing that, because he didn't mindlessly buy you a guitar.
Yeah.
I heard you saying something about him buying a baby Taylor, which means he either had some advice or he played.
He did not.
Okay.
He was a car salesman his entire life.
Okay.
Typical salesman. My dad played drums in high school. And so that's probably where I get most of the music bug from.
Okay.
He played all throughout high school and into college, played a lot of clubs around the Raleigh area in North Carolina. And so he had the music background. My grandpa didn't have that. He had an appreciation for music. But he was the typical guy, he would, if he knew, his granddaughter loved music, he walked right into that Guitar Center. I remember it clear as day. He walked right in there and he walked right up to the first salesman in the guitar room and he said, "What's the best guitar I can get for my granddaughter?"
Right.
And, he took care of his people, and I am so grateful for that.
Where is the Guitar Center to where you grew up?
It was an hour and 15-minute drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's where I'm, because as I learn your story, it is so similar to my story, except for the fact that, much to the audience's dismay, I think you may actually be older than me because you figured things out a lot sooner than I did, because the record store was an hour and a half away for me.
Yeah.
So it was all kind of the same, but it made it makes sense that somebody knew something because your understanding of the music exceeded your age.
Yeah.
Now, apart from the musical part, the next 85-year-old question, what does it mean when you're 10, so you're fourth grade?
Yeah.
How does "I'm going to take this more seriously because my grandfather's passing" means something?
Yeah.
What is taking it seriously or more seriously at 10? What does that look like?
It was actually, putting my head down and starting to take lessons more seriously. It was starting to seek out music options in school. How can I gain a better, grasp a better knowledge of theory, or of whatever a 10-year-old would think theory was at the time. But it was seeking out other opportunities of how can I become more involved at church and choir and be able to get more exposure there, and then started seeking out the talent shows and the opportunities to be able to get in front of bigger crowds and figure out, like, am I good at this, or is my mom just telling me I'm good at singing because she has to?
Right.
And so those were the first steps that kind of started getting the ball rolling for me.
And, okay, so talent shows and all of that.
Yeah.
I did all the same things.
Yeah. Don't we all in small towns?
Yes, but you did it with the internet existing.
Yeah.
So when I was growing up and I was the piano guy in my small town, I didn't even sit down with a guitar player until I was in college.
Yeah.
And went to the bigger city and found somebody. I couldn't look online and find that.
Yeah.
So where I stood in regard to my peers, I didn't really have an understanding of. How does that work for you when you're 10, 11, 12, 13, you're doing talent shows, you're also able to find what would be more accurately your peers online, right?
Yeah, I would say further in the 10, 11 years, not
Right.
so much.
Okay.
But once I started getting into the 13, 14 years, and, felt like I had my feet were more under me in the music sense and the performing sense. That was started to become the introduction of the popularity of really Facebook was it.
Right.
On that sense. My sister had a MySpace page, but, I was a little bit behind that. So, there was starting to, hear word of other people in the nearby areas that were also, doing the same thing. And they would say, you need to check out this person, or you need to go and see a show for them, or maybe do the same talent show that they did. And so that was definitely helpful in the sense of more so gaining better ground of opportunities for where I was. I wasn't really doing a lot of collaboration stuff at that point, but becoming aware of who else out there is doing the same thing, and how can I maybe copy and paste what they're doing in my own life and in the startings of that journey for me.
So, and I may be reading tea leaves here, I may be completely wrong, but in as much as you're looking for attention, looking at your peers, all that kind of stuff, It seems like much earlier than a lot of people would have expected, you had a pretty strong sense of self.
Yeah.
This is what they're doing, but I don't care what they're doing. I want to do what I'm doing. Was that always? Was that early? Did you always kind of realize? Because, I mean, your musical influences precede you.
Yeah. Most definitely.
A lot of yours were also mine,
Yeah.
but you were born and I was starting to play in my first bands. But it seems like real quickly you kind of said, this is the lane I want to operate in. Nobody else really gets it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Now, where does that come from?
I've always been a very independent person. I blame it on being the farm girl, the horse girl. Whenever you grew up as a girl on a farm, you had to learn to stand your ground. You had to learn to do things on your own and not wait around for anybody. And both my parents are pretty, independent in that sense as well too. And I come from an entrepreneurial family too. So we've always been a build it from the ground up. Nobody's going to work as hard as you are for what you want. So make sure you go after it and do what you need to do. And that very much bled into my personality, but also into the music side of things as well. And so I wasn't. I mean, there's always, and especially probably as a female, there's always what are people thinking about me or whatever. But I was never, even in the early years, I was never, I need to change because they say this and that they don't like that song or whatever. I was very firmly rooted in, I love classic country music. I love the storytelling. I love the sounds. And that was those were the first songs I learned how to play on guitar. And that's what I was playing out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had not made that particular connection, and I would have brought this up later, but because you just brought it up, the connection, the musical connection, and the farm girl agricultural connection, and how that kind of makes sense. To hear you talk about the independence of thought, Is that how you sought out, or is that how you were discovered for this partnership that you're working with in North Carolina? And is that how explain what that's about?
Yeah, so in 2022, I was named the first ever musical ambassador for the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. And that whole introduction came from my background of being raised on a farm. And I was very active in 4-H and FFA my entire childhood. I always tell people, agriculture is really the only thing that's ever taken more time in my life than music has. Yeah. It was the first love for me. And so that partnership came from my background in 4-H and FFA, and I was actually introduced to the team that I worked with at the Department of Agriculture through a Zoom for a past 4-H club of mine. It was at the beginning of COVID, and I was home, and one of my past 4-H clubs reached out to me, and they said, hey, we're doing an online awards ceremony, and we don't really know what we're doing, so we think it'd be special if you came on and sang for some of the students. And I didn't have anything else to do, so I was like, heck yeah, I'll do that. And there were some guys with the Department of Agriculture on that call, and that was the first introduction, and wheels started turning from there, and that's how it ended up coming to the whole partnership.
Well, and when I first saw that, I was like, Now, I don't know all of the farm background thing, and I didn't think this of you, but you see a lot of artists that will adopt a charity. They'll adopt a cause. Because now they're big and famous and they're doing this. And I'm looking at you going, this is maybe even before your album, your full album came out. Yeah. So I'm seeing it as, holy smokes, this chick just is getting started and she's already trying to figure out how to use what momentum she's got to put it back into the community and all of that. And the independent thing, I love that you painted that picture, because that's one of the things that we have to learn as musicians.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Which is, the focus and the deliberation of, I can't go out tonight because I've got to sing tomorrow morning or whatever. And it's probably an easier lesson to learn when it's like, if I don't get up and feed
The horse.
the chickens
yeah,
or the horse
yeah.
or whatever, he will, suffer.
Yeah.
So you
absolutely.
probably learn to push back on that peer pressure stuff.
Oh, yeah. I always tell people I did not have a normal childhood, middle school, high school, in the sense of all my friends, they were on the cheer team and they
Right.
were going and having parties, whatever the
Sure.
sense of parties were in middle school and high school. But, they were having parties and having sleepovers all the time. And I didn't. I mean, I showed horses. That was my sport. And so that was every weekend from April until November. And with that came practice and prep, and then you had another human, not a human being, but a being that was relying on you to stay alive
Right.
and stay well. And so
Right.
there was a lot of responsibility for me even as a 4-year-old when I, got my first pony. And, back then it didn't seem cool and I was not fond of it. But looking back on it, I'm so grateful because it did instill that sense of responsibility and independence and, being able to time manage and discipline yourself,
Right.
which is so, again, copy and pasteable to the music industry because this thing will swallow you up and spit you out.
Sure,
So,
sure.
it was important, and I'm grateful for it. It made me tough, and you need that in whatever you're doing, but especially in the music industry.
So, okay, so you're tough, you're independent, I was right there. I don't know that I was tough and independent, but certainly in high school, I was prepared to be uncool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm playing piano, I'm uncool.
The music
That's
nerd.
okay.
Yeah. I was the horse girl and the music nerd, so imagine how cool I was.
Well, and we made good grades.
Yes,
Which
I
means
was the
we were the
nerd.
worst.
Yes, I was the math nerd on top of that.
Right. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Sorry, I got you off track.
No. I'm still on track. Because I'm still on the 85-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you about this, and then I want to get into your music. But
Yeah.
this is so much a piece of how you're built.
Yeah.
You learn all these adult lessons at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
Most kids, young adults,
Yeah.
don't even know what a dinner theater is until their grandparents take them.
Yeah.
You are a sophomore, freshman in high school, and you decide to start a dinner theater.
Yeah, I did.
What does that look like? What is it? Did you take over a restaurant? Was it a small, one act play type deal? What were you doing?
So my family, my dad's an auctioneer. And thankfully, he has this big auction hall that he uses for auctions in our hometown. And they had just moved into this new building with the auction hall. And that was really when sophomore year was when they moved in. And that was when, the idea of, okay, maybe like this is what I want to be when I grow up started coming in. And that was really when I started looking into Nashville and Belmont and all the things. And the idea of music business started getting into my mind. And my dad, being the entrepreneurial business guy, he's like, well, you realize if you want to do this, you got to make money. And there's a business side to this whole having fun in the music.
Right.
So, and being from a small town, there weren't a lot of opportunities for us in the live music scene, for me to be able to flourish or find new artists to place shows with and eventually start to write with and all the things. And so I looked at my dad and I was like, would you let me use your auction room and turn it into, the space to be able to have a band? Because I already had a stage and everything for auctions. And so it was generally set up to be able to house something like that. And I was like, I want to start my own business as a sophomore and see if this music thing on the business side is something that I can make sense of and try to, get together. And so I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I was like, if I fall flat on my face, I fall flat on my face, but at least I tried it. And so we started up. I gathered up some friends that I had met through church and all that kind of stuff that also had done some songwriting, but maybe, mostly just they could play an instrument well. And we got together and we put together this first show. Had no idea if it was going to take or not, but got one of our local restaurants to come in and catered the show and had a sit-down meal, and then had a 2.5-hour show with a full band. And there were some kinks that definitely had to get worked out, but people so appreciate it. And it goes back to that whole me just loving getting people that I love into a room.
Right.
And for us being from a small town of 5,000 people, they didn't have anywhere to go for entertainment on a Saturday night unless they drove an hour to go somewhere. And so not only was it providing a place for me and my friends to gain experience as performers and try to build an audience, but it was providing a place for people to get entertainment and not have to drive an hour. And that was really special to me. And so it continued, after we did the first show, people were like, well, when's the next one? Are you going to do another? And I'm like, maybe I should make this a thing. Yeah. Maybe this isn't just a one-off thing. And so it turned into something that people kept expecting. And so then we did a Christmas show, and then we did a Valentine's show, and then we did a Mother's Day show, and created all these scenarios for people to be able to come and enjoy live music, and also for me to be able to grow and start building a fan base in my hometown in a place that was family friendly, which was very important to me, because I was still underage at that time and couldn't go play at any bar that I wanted to.
But what a great way to, and I'm sure looking back, you can see this, but I mean, what a great way to learn your craft now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a lot of people, and and not knowing exactly what that meant when I read it for you, dinner theaters, is she mounting pump boys and dinettes? Is she, what are they doing? Hearing you describe it, it's like, oh, okay, so she's learning why you don't run cables across certain areas because they've got to roll carts, or where the lights need to be, or all this stuff that you weren't necessarily saying, I want to know how to build a concert. Yeah. But it feeds into that a lot. Yeah.
And I was doing, I was booking the artist for the show. I was selling the tickets. I was coordinating with the caterers. I mean, my hand was in every single bit of it, all the way to the marketing, and then, putting the show on and getting the set list configured and all that kind of stuff. And so it truly gave me a really good general handle on, the production side of shows and events and all that kind of stuff. And, that was where I learned how to play with a band, and that was where I was introduced to the Nashville number system, and all that stuff really laid some really good groundwork for me to feel a little more ready to make the move to Nashville. Nobody's ever ready for it, but to jump in, and I had already had my feet wet a little bit in that side of things, instead of just jumping into music and just thinking, oh, everything's going to be great, it'll all work out. It's like, yeah, it may, but you have to make things happen for things to fall into place too. So it was, and I did it for all the way up until COVID. We shut everything down during then, and then kind of
So you were going back home and doing it even in school?
When I moved to Nashville, I was going back, and people were looking forward to it every single time, and it built for 7 years probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was when you were at Belmont.
Yes.
Doing music business.
Yes.
Which I've heard you very much underline.
Yes.
The word business part, which, is certainly different than just teach me how to play my instrument and I'll hire somebody else so I can give them all my money to hold it together for me. So while you're doing that, you're still going back and applying stuff you're learning every day in school, I'm guessing.
Absolutely.
Right? So I have no idea where this is going to go once we start talking about songs.
Buckle up.
Before we get into that, I want to regroup. I've got a buddy of mine, Troy Castellano. He put together a program here in Nashville called Instruments for Education.
Okay.
Where he gathers up instruments for schools that don't have music budgets, kids that don't have grandfathers to give them baby tailors, to get instruments in their hands, pass the music on. So we're going to show an introduction to that program, and then we're going to start getting into some of your songs.
Perfect.
So, Instruments for Education.
Hey, Troy Castellano here from Instruments for Education. We're at one of our first stops here today on a Friday. We're delivering some tambourines and some shakers for an elementary school classroom. We're at Liberty Elementary School. Hey guys, I'm Troy Castellano. We started Instruments for Education as a way to put instruments into the hands of kids. Sometimes we donate directly to students, sometimes to teachers, and sometimes to full classrooms in their schools. We're based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and we service the Middle Tennessee area. Since we started, we've reached over 100 schools and donated over 500 instruments. If you'd like to make a request for an instrument, or you have an instrument to donate, or would like to contribute financially, visit our website at instrumentsforeducation.org. Thanks for supporting us, and thanks for helping keep music alive.
Okay, so that's Instruments for Education.
Love it.
I checked my notes, but I'm probably going to have to check them again because every time I hear one of your songs, it leads me to something else, and then I get drilled down
Got
into
squirrel
listening one over.
moments.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you because I didn't find it on Spotify. When I was going back and listening to your music, I was finding crumbs from Big Girl World.
Yes.
And I was trying to figure out what happened because timeline-wise, I feel like I know part of what was going on with you from 2019 to 2023. You'll probably tell me I'm completely wrong.
Yeah, you are. 100%. I'm kidding.
But Big Girl World was an EP. I don't find it on Spotify.
Yeah.
Where are the bodies buried?
2012. No, I'm kidding. So yeah, it was my first EP, my first big girl music project. I started doing music full time in 2019, and so it was 4 songs, and 2 of them are songs that you would probably recognize. The first being "Water Down the Whiskey" and "Just Like You," and they were my first 2 radio singles as well too. And so, yeah, it was a starter project for us, and just, it was my first project with my producer that is still my producer now. And you get, it's a new relationship in a sense. And so you're starting to figure each other out, and you're starting to see what each person likes, and what's the dance of working with each other.
How do you communicate to each other what you like and what you don't like?
Yeah, and it's him, figuring out what session players are going to get the right sound for what Paige likes and what sound we're going for and all the things. So I'm so grateful for it because it was a project that helped me establish myself as an artist and what I want the brand to look like and what I want the sound to be like and all the things. And so, we printed some CDs because I'm an 85-year-old lady.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have CDs to take to shows, and people still love to buy that EP whenever we're out at shows, and they love to get like a behind the scenes because they're like, oh, these songs aren't available everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I know the CD is on your website. I just did not look to see what the songs were on the EP. So I guess Whiskey is on your Spotify.
Yes,
for sure.
Is. And Just Like You is on there as well.
Okay. Now, so you graduated in 2017. 2018. Started music full-time 2019. Now, when I showed up today, actually before I even saw you, when you were giving me directions as to how to get in, what was the word that we discussed? I said, looking at your stuff, you seem to be very deliberate.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think I see, you're going to say this is OCD. I don't think it is so much. But you seem to have a really significant level of intention with things you write, things you do, probably the colors you choose, like everything. Yeah. Now, you came out with the EP. Your second radio single, which one was that?
Just Like You.
Just Like You. Was that first year before you started music full time? Was that involved in a lot of very intentional table setting?
Yeah.
This is how I want it, because most people don't try to go to radio with their first single at any level because they're thinking, I got to figure out how Spotify works, how all the things work. You seem to have done that in advance.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a do your homework kind of a gal, and know what you're getting into. And as I was, getting the degree in music business, you were constantly hearing of things like, oh, I need to go check this out, and I need to see how this could apply to me. And knowing that once I graduated, I wanted to, get started as quickly as I could, not knowing that, COVID was coming a year later.
Right.
But so I wanted to have all my ducks in a row and be ready for what that next step would be for me in music and be able to apply this knowledge that I have just paid for. And so, it was a lot of research and figuring out, to the nitty gritty, the distribution and how to, where do I want to do? Do I want to have a video aspect to this? And what's the best radio team? And what level of radio do you do? Is radio needed? All the things. And I tell people this all the time, there is absolutely no textbook, there is no recipe book for how to make it in the music industry. And so for me at the beginning, it was deliberately, let's throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And so trying to make those choices and the business side is, let's see what makes the most sense financially of investing in this and this and this and trying to build the brand as we went along. And, everybody knows in a new business, because musicians are businesses, your brand is going to morph as you go, and you're going to figure things out of what's working and what's not working. So that was the goal, was let's try a lot of things that seem like the right move and see what takes the best. We took the first single to radio, and I was able to start making those relationships with meaningful people and people that I knew would be able to move the needle in some sort of way for the next, phase of what I wanted to come. And I'm grateful for it. It taught me a lot.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I mean, it clearly did. And that's where it was. I just know how much I have learned by making the sausage. Yeah. I'm looking back at what you did, and I'm trying to figure out what was she learning from when you did that. Because I think if I've got the timeline right, you did your second single. Now, I didn't realize you were already building or starting to build or aligned with Pam Tillis.
Yes.
By then.
Yeah.
Now, I know who Pam Tillis was because I opened for her when she first had her first single. Explain, because some of our folks may not know who Pam Tillis is and then who she is to you.
Yeah, 90s country queen. And she's the daughter of Mel Tillis, which huge songwriter, huge artist in the country world. I mean, she is truly such a wealth of knowledge, on the country music facts side, but also in the artist world and the songwriting world, and as a female in the country industry and all the things. And, I grew up in the 90s, so, I was like sitting in front of...
You barely grew up in the 90s.
But I did.
You
I can claim it, okay?
You can claim it, but you were okay, because a lot of your music, it's certainly reminiscent of that era. You're very comfortable with very open arrangements. Yeah. You don't have to bury everything, which to me is very reminiscent of like some of that late 80s Patti Loveless stuff. Yeah. And certainly, you can hear some of your tunes, and you can hear why Pam Tillis would be an influence of yours. But you still had to go back and get a lot of that music. You were not at 3 going, hey, Lori Morgan rocks.
Yeah.
What I'm confused about with Pam is your team or somebody sent your stuff to her.
Yeah.
You had just done the one single. So what were they sending to her? She was not looking at, the last 2 years of momentum from you. So what was it that started that relationship for
It
you
was
guys?
the song Just Like You.
Okay.
And we had recorded it on that EP that had come out in 2019. And so we knew Just Like You was going to be the second radio single. And we were, getting plans together 6 months in advance for, how music goes. And the song was sent to her and just, hey, Pam, listen to this song. This is a new artist that's kind of come into Nashville. She's making her way in the industry and, just see what she's going on. And at that time, the COVID shutdown had just happened. And so she was off the road and having a lot more time at home and able to focus on more things than, being spread so thin whenever she is on the road all the time. And so, sent her that song and the response was, I love this, I love what she's doing. If there's any way to help, while I've got spare time on my hands, let me know. And it ended up turning into her kind of stepping into this new role that she had never done before on the directing side of music videos. And so, for me, as somebody who grew up watching her on CMT,
Right.
on Saturday mornings, I was like, holy crap, Pam Tillis wants to, she heard my song, B,
Right.
she likes it, and C, she wants to be involved in
Sure.
this. What is happening?
Yeah.
But it did, and she stepped right in, and that was, I tell Pam this all the time now that we've worked on multiple video projects now, but she doesn't realize how helpful she is as a director behind the camera to an artist because she has been on the other side of the camera before, and she knows how things read to camera, but she also knows how to portray to the artist, hey, you need to do this differently in a way that makes sense to them versus a director who, is normally always behind the camera may not get that or may not know how to convey that to the artist in a way that reads in our minds.
Sure.
And
Or they're not going to tell you this, but hold your guitar this other way because this makes you look like, you don't want to look. So
Right.
hold it this way because I'm a girl and I get it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that too, I'm
yeah,
sure.
absolutely. And so it started with, very strictly on a director artist kind of a relationship. And, because I was like, oh my gosh, can I speak to her? Can I look at her in the face? She's freaking royalty. And, and in 2022, it was difficult because we were in the shutdowns. And so that first video shoot we were doing, we were all masked up and had taken 3 COVID tests before we came. And so, the relationship of what I wanted it to be didn't necessarily start until a couple of years later.
Right.
But now she's, a dear friend of mine, and we've worked on 3 video projects, and she's creative directed 2 photo shoots for me, and she actually helped pull the 2 outside songs that are on the record that I released last year were songs that came straight from her.
Okay.
And she kind of had a hand in the production of some of those in the studio as well too. So she's truly just been the biggest godsend in mentoring, not only in my career and the brand and all the things, but also just how the heck do you do it as a woman in this industry? Because she's done it. She's walked every hard road and good road that there is to walk. And so she's like the big sister in country music for me.
Well, so she got involved with your career then. You did the video. I'm assuming that video was shot in your hometown?
No.
Was it not?
We shot all 3 of the videos that we've done were in the Nashville area.
Okay. Because from what I remember, and you were talking about being masked up, it was not a lot of people, very easy to kind of sit in front of the building, play guitar, take your mask off. We're over here. So I shot some stuff during that window and I recognized the same thing.
Yeah.
Plus it was probably pretty safe in a new relationship to kind of, you're not testing the waters.
Right. Yeah.
Now, which takes us to Baby Don't.
Yeah.
Because, very organized. Everything's got to have its place. Good old country girl. Okay. The video for Baby Don't is like Nickelodeon
Yeah.
marries Wild Kingdom. You've
Yeah.
got two people dressed up like peacocks.
Yeah.
I'm thinking there's got to be some trust involved. I'm thinking
yeah.
if I look at your career and your body of work, I'm expecting you to go, you want to do what?
That was probably, yeah, did you tap into my phone? Because that's exactly what I said to Pam the first
Yeah.
time. And that was all Pam. That
Yeah.
was her creative mind, and she is so creative.
Very colorful,
Yes.
very colorful, very
Yes.
avant-garde,
And
like a
she-
Cartoon Network Renaissance fair.
Yeah, and she brought that whole vision to life, mind you, in the pouring rain
Right?
on a September day here in Nashville. And I was like, Pam, I don't know about that. Like, this might be a little, because I'm a very, straight-laced kind of
Yeah.
a girl. And she was like, just trust me. Just trust this process. It's a side of you that, listeners and viewers have not seen before. It adds a whole, dimension to you as an artist. And I was like, I'm not going to be comfortable, and we're probably going to have to shoot every single scene 5
Yeah.
times, but I trust you.
Yeah.
And and that whole shoot, we don't even have time to get into it, but that whole shoot was just like one hard obstacle after another, and it ended up becoming, one of the coolest videos that we've ever shot. But it took a lot of work,
Right.
mental work to get there, and then a lot of physical work just to pull that video off.
Well,
She did it.
very cool. It's very cool, and I wouldn't say, what did you say, straight laced?
Yes.
I mean, that may be you. I'm looking at it. I'm not seeing that as being not congruent with you because of that. I just see it as being very kind of not you're not flamboyant for flamboyancy's
Right.
sake.
Yeah.
Which that was certainly,
Yeah.
outside
Yeah.
of that. But I kind of was looking at it kind of going, this would not have been the first video.
Yeah. She definitely, we had to dip our toes in. And then the second one, she was like, all right, we've done this before. Like, give me the reins.
Right.
And I loved it. And
yeah.
she'll tell you all the time, she's like, my goal is to show Paige to Paige.
Mm-hmm.
And she could see in me that could be pulled out and that could add a new dimension. And I'm so grateful for that because I did not see that.
Right.
And I may have not ever gotten to that point or the next point if it weren't for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was the third video that she did with you?
Famous Enough.
Okay, Famous Enough. That's the one that I always get hung up on when I'm
the cow
listening.
one.
Well, I'm not even speaking to the video as much as just the song.
Okay.
I know that you, in the same sense of being very intentional, I think you are very aware of what you write, what you put out there, because you want to be comfortable wearing that.
Yeah.
And that the line, because I wrote it down because I wanted to get it exactly right. If I can look myself in the mirror and recognize who I am.
Yeah.
If there's anything that through my journey through Nashville and tours and stadiums and craziness and
Yeah.
drunks and all that,
Yeah.
if there's anything that has been my goal through that whole time, it was that.
Yeah.
And so when I hear that song, I'm like, okay, she's my people. She is my people. Is that where that song came from? I mean, what was the idea of that song?
That was one of the 2 outside songs that Pam found. And funny story, I thought she had found Baby Don't first, and she sent it to me. And we had recorded it, and I thought that the album was done. We all thought the album was done.
Okay.
And Pam, that song came into her inbox, and she immediately, I got a text from Pam
Is
that
this
had,
the one that Laura McKenna?
that was the Baby Don't.
Okay.
Baby Don't
I
one.
got the
Yeah.
timeline
Yeah.
confused. Okay.
So Famous Enough came after, and I got a text from Pam one day, and it was a song file, and immediately her name popped up. She was calling me, and she was like, I just heard this song, and I know you think you're done with the album, but I really think you need to listen to this song. I just heard it. It just came into my inbox, and this song has you written all over it. And so I listened to it. I fell in love with the song. I knew that it was something that I wanted to try to come in and make my own. But And so I did, and then I found out that the songwriters on it are dear friends of mine.
Wow.
Terry Jo Box and Scott Sean White and
Okay.
Kaylee Bishop, and they're all amazing writers. And I was like, holy crap, I wasn't in the room that day, but I do feel like this song, is my story. And so I took it in. We took it into the studio. I fell in love with it, and Pam ended up doing the video for this song as well too. And my heart and soul from the very beginning, and I have, going back to my family has always been the one who will build me up and humble me down. And that's
Right.
what family's for. And I've always heard, even before I got into music, it's, don't get too big for your britches, because you ain't no better than anybody else. And whatever you're doing, if you start losing yourself, then whatever it is you're doing ain't worth it. And that's always been something that's rang true with me. And I've been very deliberate, again, about, each step and decision that I make. I want it to be purely Paige. And if it's not something that I would have done as a 10-year-old girl, then, it's not worth changing myself for, because, all you got at the end of this life is yourself, and you want to make sure you like that self.
Sure.
And that other people like it too. And so that song was so important to me, and rings true through and through.
Well, I love the fact that it matters to you. I think everything matters to you.
Yeah.
Or a lot of things matter. I understand why people would say it's not my job to be a role model. I don't have to, but
People are watching.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think back all the time, when I'm making decisions, and there's actually a mini documentary that came out recently with me and Pam on a photo shoot that we just did. And in the interview, I said, I make decisions thinking about the 10-year-old girl that I was whenever I was playing guitar, and when I started playing guitar, and the people that I was looking up to then. Like, if there's a 10-year-old girl out there right now watching these interviews and watching what I'm doing and listening and learning the words to the songs that I'm singing, like, would I be proud of that? And, if I have a daughter one day down the road and she's
Right.
listening and she's going back and watching this stuff, am I proud of that? And, do I want my grandma to watch the stuff that I'm putting out? And so, there's, no matter what you're doing, there's eyes and ears, and people are watching you all the time. And I'm also a person of faith, and so I keep that in mind as what I'm doing is honoring myself, my brand, but also God, and I want to make sure that all of that shines through in what I'm doing in music and videos and photo shoots and all the things, because there's a lot of eyes and ears watching, like I said.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
You got to make sure that, I think sometimes people are like, oh, it's music. You can just be rough and rowdy and do whatever and live the
Right.
dream, live the rock star life.
Yeah.
And as somebody who is in the spotlight, hopefully the spotlight's going to get bigger, but the spotlight, there's responsibility that comes with that. And you got to, as my daddy would say, you got to act right.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and the thing is, even if it's not good, bad, horrible representation, embarrassing
Yeah.
to the family, just the amount of people that will say, yeah, I put this out on Spotify. We kind of threw it together.
Yeah.
They make excuses for
Yeah.
all of that. I don't even want to have to do that.
Yeah,
I want
exactly.
to at least be able to say, I'm going to put this out.
Right.
I'm not going to defend it.
Right.
Just,
be proud of it.
Yeah, I'm
Because
good with it.
you put in the work
Right.
ahead of time. Yeah, that's
Right.
important.
So I know these songs come from different places.
Yeah.
One of the other lyrics that I wrote down that I was like, okay, I want to know where this came from. Because you talk about having everything kind of worked out,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of that's learned through
Oh, yeah.
process. She drives and don't know where she's going, steps out into the wide open.
Yeah. From American Beauty.
Yeah. So is that you?
It feels like it.
Do you do that?
It feels like a
was
lot.
that the
Yeah.
idea of that song? Where did that come from?
Yeah. I think, and also in that lyric, because that's the very opening lyric of that song, and it's like, maybe we're painting the picture of the girl that maybe I wish I was. Like, maybe I wish I could let go of the reins a little bit
Right.
on some things too. But in the sense that I am very articulated and deliberate about things, my husband would be the very first person to tell you that I am a space girl sometimes.
Okay.
I can, especially my driving, he would be very first to tell you that he is in the driver's seat anytime that we are both in
Right.
the car. together. So there are aspects of life where I have learned, or I've just decided to kind of, let things go and be what they will be, because if you hold like this to everything all the time, you're going to constantly run yourself in a circle. And so, as I've gotten older in my old wise years, I've learned that there are things that you have to make happen and be deliberate about, but there are also things that are going to happen, and you just kind of have to go with the flow and ride the wave and pivot to however you need to.
Sure.
And some days I wish I was a little more like this girl than I was like this girl. And so it's a constant battle between the two.
So then with a song like American Beauty, is that where you start? Do you say, okay, I want to write this song about who I want to be, or I just saw the movie American Beauty and that's a cool title, I'm going to write that? How did you come up with that as a concept?
It was, honestly, that's a really good question. I'm sitting here trying to think. I know we wrote that song during COVID, and I wrote it with two girls that I went to Belmont with, and I think it was a title that one of them brought in, and we started running with the idea of it. And I loved the freedom, quote unquote, no pun intended, but the freedom that felt like was within that song, not only on the American side, but also just in those lyrics that we were able to sprinkle in some ideas of individuality and, girl, you don't need that man if you don't want him, kind of stuff too. I think every girl, if she's not that way, she needs to hear that sometimes, and even guys too. There's music is always something that hopefully somebody else needs to hear, and you're saying it in a nice enough way for them to be able to receive that.
Right. Well, I'm hearing that, and of course I can only imagine you have such a clear sense of who you are, but then you're working with co-writers who you would hope do the same.
Yeah.
You're collaborating on a song. How do you decide who gets it? Right?
Yeah. As an artist, on the artist sense?
Yeah, because I don't know who all you've written with.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't, think of that with everybody, but you got three girls writing American Beauty.
Right. Yeah. Who
gets to record
well,
it?
and two, I don't think a lot of people realize that within the music industry, there are strictly songwriters too.
Yeah.
And I do surround myself with a lot of those as well too, not deliberately, but I have a lot of friends that are just amazing songwriters, and they have no interest on the artist side, or they're amazing producers or whatever. And so for me, I have never been the one to go in and say, oh, this song has to be mine. Oh, we have to write this for me today. I've always just been of the mindset of, we just need a good song. And whether that's Paige King Johnson is cutting that, or whether it's Martina McBride is going to cut it, I want the best song today, and we'll figure out the details later.
And it's just a matter of whoever sounds best.
Right. Yeah.
On the record.
Yeah. Sometimes it may be whoever the vocal was on the demo, and that whoever person heard it and said, oh, that's a good song. Maybe, maybe that's the voice that fits it. And I write with a good mix of artists and songwriters and singer-songwriters together too. And I haven't yet, at least, I haven't gotten into a spot where they're like, I want it. No, I want it.
Right.
So I'm sure it may come down the road, but thankfully I haven't been in that situation.
Well, I know that having played on a few records and been present for some of that, I know that sometimes the artists don't have the same perception of a recording session as their others. So I was just kind of curious if I would get the same story from you.
Oh, no.
So who is this and what is this?
I'm really scared. What are you about to play?
Oh, no.
Is this like a joke on me?
No. Okay. Who is this? And
oh, it's Reagan.
Do they agree with you? So you'll have to.
Oh my goodness! Do you know Reagan?
Hello, Paige. Hope you're having an incredible interview. I just wanted to pop in and say that when Nicole and I finished the first draft of the song, we saw that we had you on the books, And we thought it would be a perfect fit and such a sign that we should show it to you because, the obvious reason, you're an American Beauty, but also just because I thought that your voice would sound incredible on it, and it totally does. And we're just so glad that you love this song as much as we do and made it completely your own. And yeah, it sounds incredible. Thank you for loving it as much as we do.
Oh, that's made me miss her now. I'm going to call her after we leave.
I was just making sure that I got the same version of the song.
Yes.
So, yeah. No, I know her now.
Yes. She's amazing.
I didn't know her before.
Yeah. You should have her on McMahon on keys.
Well, maybe we will.
She's amazing.
I hear she knows people like you.
Yeah.
So, well, I went through, we've done all of your songs, and then I realized, which I didn't, maybe you told me this and I forgot, one of the things we do here is to capture one of the songs, perform one of the songs.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that is something that's coming, right? Or is it?
Well, it's not on the books quite yet. We just cut 4 different songs in the studio, but it's a very special song to me.
Okay. Well, we're going to share that.
Yes.
And then you can tell me why we did that one.
Yeah.
And if we passed. So, here's Paige King Johnson.
Weatherman says there's a 95% chance you'll fall in love in the middle of a jukebox dance. They're calling for a storm at the honky-tonk, coming in about 6'2". It's a sent from heaven kind of miracle. Girl, you better break out your boots, 'cause it's raining cowboys all over that sawdust floor. I'm talking in it for the long haul, speaking with a slow draw. Never walk out the door. Those take you home boys are falling right out of that Amarillo sky. No, they can't explain it. It's just raining cowboys. They'll sweep you off your feet like a hurricane, steal your heart in the night like Jesse James, and get you dreaming about a sunset ride. Girl, trust me when I tell you, the way they're coming down tonight, you're gonna need a good umbrella, 'cause it's raining cowboys all over that sawdust floor. I'm talking in it for the long haul, speaking with a slow draw. Never walk out the door. Those take you home boys are falling right out of that Amarillo sky. No, they can't explain it. It's just raining cowboys. It's raining cowboys all over that sawdust floor. I'm talking in it for the long haul, speaking with a slow draw. Never walk out the door. Those take you home boys are falling right out of that Amarillo sky. No, they can't explain it. It's just raining cowboys. And y'all, I ain't complaining when it's raining cowboys.
Raining Cowboys.
Yes.
We okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
It was a good one. It was a very well produced production of the video itself.
Well, it's very simple. But
I think the keys player could have been a little bit better, but
I need a better team. I need a better team.
I'm joking.
Why did we do that song?
Well, because I love that song. I wrote that song with a fellow North Carolinian. Her name's Kaylin Robertson,
Okay.
running around here in town. And being the horse girl, the farm girl that I grew up, that was a fun song to write. Because I feel like I'm validated in writing cowboy songs. You know, cowboy songs are very popular right now. I feel like I'm validated in writing cowboy songs because I've been a cowboy in my life before. Whereas, you know, maybe some people haven't really lived that experience. But we had a lot of fun writing that song. And it's just a fun song. My band loves playing it, loves kind of bringing it to life. And so, and I feel like sometimes in these things, you know, you get songs that you've already heard already. And it's like, well, let's give them an inside scoop into something that could be coming down the road. Or maybe,
Right.
you know, a deep cut later on. Or it may be something that you never hear again. But you heard it here. So let us know if you like it, if we need to release it.
Well, thank you for letting me do that.
Yes. I loved your artistic kind of spin on all the things. And
Just try to stay out of the way and let you
No.
be the singer-songwriter that you
we
are.
brought in that honky-tonk piano.
A little bit.
Yes.
A little bit. Okay, so I don't know when this is coming up. I'm going to check and make sure because you've got an award show coming up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now you've won some of these awards already.
Yes, I
So
have.
you're already, you know,
Yeah.
big time
Feel like an
in the
Olympic
Carolinas.
medalist. No.
Yeah. You are nominated this year for Female Artist of the Year,
Yeah.
Country Music Video of the Year, Songwriter of the Year, Country Tour of the Year
Yes.
for the Carolina Country Music Awards.
Yeah.
Now, I know you would say this, and I know you mean it, you know, being recognized for
Yeah.
all of those, you know, by your community, by your peers, by your fans, all of that's important. You know, I haven't gotten as close as you did, but I was on the fringe of a few of those things, which
Yeah.
is cool. Which of those means the most to you?
I would say, honestly, it's probably a tie between the songwriter and the tour of the year. On the side of, because I pride myself on being a songwriter, and we pour our hearts and our souls into 3-minute songs 3 to 4 days a week. And, you know, my goal is to write songs that matter and that can hit a heartstring in one side or the other. But also on the tour side, just because I bust my butt every single year. I book all of my own shows, and we've played 150 shows, plus or minus, this year.
Wow.
And
Are those all full band, or are they
not
a
all full
variety of
band.
things?
Yeah, a
Okay.
variety from solo to duo to trio to full band and everything
Yeah.
in between. And there's a lot of work that goes into not only just booking shows and, you know, getting schedules and routes and everything figured out, but then you go into, now we have to execute, and now we have to do the traveling and the playing the shows and the VIPs before or after and all the things. And, you know, that's where a lot of artists' bread and butter come from. And, but it also takes the most out of us too.
Right.
And you know, it looks great, and it is. I mean,
Sure.
I love this job and I love being on the road, but it takes a lot of work emotionally, mentally, physically, all the things. And so, you know, to get recognition on that side, that people see the work that's going in and coming
Right.
out of it, that means a lot to me. You know, whether I get the award or not, the fact of, you know, just being nominated is a
Sure.
great thing. But it is.
No,
it is.
I'm not patronizing with that
Yeah.
at all. I'm, as a sideman
Yeah.
professionally,
Yeah.
you know, I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah.
Just because I recognize that.
You know the work that goes in.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. And the songwriter award, if you share that with everybody that participated in the writing of the song, it's 3 people
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
for some of these songs. Whereas the tour piece, the show piece, is going to be 6, 8, 10 people regularly, and another dozen per venue, and Uber drivers, and
It
just-
truly takes a team to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
an
yeah.
artist up on stage every
Sure.
night.
Sure.
So
You know, it's especially hard on 85-year-old ladies.
it is. We have to also include walkers and
Yep, yep.
moo-moos from Walmart.
Well, so for all of the stuff that you have done as an artist, and I didn't find a whole lot about this, so I'm not sure what I'm seeing. It seems like it might be a new gig for you. You are now also recognized as a country music entity, expert,
Yeah.
correspondent.
Yeah.
What is it that you're doing for NBC? That seems like a pretty big deal.
Yeah, so our Raleigh NBC station, recently we kind of forged this new segment for them in their morning news, and it's called Minutes of Music.
Okay.
And I am their correspondent to bring information on the local music, the touring acts that are coming through town, or the local artists that are playing at really cool clubs around town.
Okay.
And it's been a neat way to kind of re-immerse myself in the triangle scene of music, just because I have been elsewhere for so many years. And so I kind of feel like I'm reconnecting in that way too.
Well, it's fun to watch
Yeah.
that and the partnership that you're doing with the agricultural community.
Yeah.
Things that you would be completely justified in doing 10, 15 years from now after you've already won your ACMs and doing all of that stuff. But to see you already wanting to contribute, wanting to hand back, recognized for your leadership
Yeah.
and the impression that you make on people, it's fun to see already.
Yeah.
I am more of a fan of Paige King Johnson than I even knew I was.
I'm more of a fan of you.
But thank you for doing this.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Let's make sure everybody knows how to find
Yeah.
what exists and what's coming.
Yes.
So that'll be you right over there.
So my website is paigekingjohnson.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all the places, at Paige King Johnson. And you can probably find a MySpace page out there somewhere. No, I told you I was too young to have a MySpace, but yeah, follow me everywhere. We have some new music that'll be coming out in the top of the year, as well as one right around Thanksgiving too. So we're excited about all the things coming.
What's coming out Thanksgiving?
It's a song called I Thank God. It's very important to me as a person of faith, and it was written right here. So you'll feel the magic in the song like you feel the magic in this podcast right now, right?
Like I feel the magic in this room
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
Thank you, hon.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, that's our interview with Paige King Johnson. And Paige, you are the bomb. If you were paying attention, Paige talked about the release of her upcoming single, I Thank God, to be released on Thanksgiving. We actually had the opportunity to do this interview with Paige right before the holiday break. So I Thank God has been released. You can find it on Spotify, and I'm sure you can find links through all of her accounts. So go ahead and check that out, as well as the acoustic version of Raining Cowboys that we performed with this interview. We did talk about last week the upcoming interview with Darren Smith, who was my band leader with Tim McGraw. And we did end up having to reschedule that interview. We participated in Country Radio Seminar last week here in Nashville and wound up doing almost 40 interviews in 2.5 days. So we're going to have a lot of great stuff to share, but we did not have time to get everything done to the level that we wanted to get it done for you guys. So we will be following up with Darren's interview as well as a lot of others. Thank you especially to Maddie True for co-hosting with me at Country Radio Seminar, and to Jonathan Warren for handling all the mics and the cameras and the lights and everything technical for us at CRS. As to this week's episode, thank you to Randy Allen for putting together the video for us, Tommy Leland for putting together the arrangement for the music and engineering all of that, and Jonathan Warren for helping to capture all of it. And until next week, this is McMahon on keys.